Hello gamers and sim racers from around the world, welcome back to the channel that consumes the most amount of tea. In this video we're checking out the latest update to Assetto Corsa, which brings Assetto Corsa to version 1.12 or 1.12, it depends how you want to use those numbers. On the screen you can see part of the update is Kunos' attempt at recreating Scotland virtually inside their simulator. Now, unfortunately, they have failed to capture the sky. It's the wrong colour. Kunos clearly have never visited the United Kingdom, and this is a giant oversight which completely proves, once and for all, that Assetto Corsa has no simulation value as in fact a completely SimCade title. You'll also notice in the video that we are driving a garden shed with a steering wheel attached to the front of it in the form of the Audi Sport Quattro. Now this car is completely bananas and pretty much throws all safety standards out of the window. Not only does it not have much of a crumple zone at the front should you accidentally drive your vehicle into a cow, which is a very likely possibility whilst in Scotland, but if you're playing this in VR, which we're not in this case because I thought you'd appreciate a good 2D video, but if you're playing it in VR and you look to your left at your driver's side door, you'll notice there's a bit of roll cage metallic structural support just resting against your knee, waiting to smash your knee into smithereens should you again drive into a cow or a graveyard. Kunos have done a good job of modelling a little church there with some gravestones. Now in terms of handling, the Audi Quattro is quite an interesting car because it brings some new dynamics to Assetto Corsa in that should you drive it like you would a normal car, it will generally just understeer and be a little bit lurchy in some ways. But if you get on top of the car and chuck it into corners like a gorilla throwing a tree branch at a photographer, it's really enjoyable, and you can see yourself doing absolutely absurd power slides around some of the corners when all four wheels hook up. Mind you, driving in this car in Assetto Corsa could never really capture the authentic Group B rally experience because there's not 400 spectators lining the circuit waiting to get run over. Without that, Group B rally just isn't Group B rally. In terms of the circuit, it's a little bit of an interesting one. I think they've done a reasonable job of capturing some rural Scottish roads. The track's a little bit wide, let's face it, and it is definitely lacking the constant onslaught of tractors and lorries that you would find on these roads in reality, but we can assume for this track it's the equivalent of the TT or something where the road would have been closed for racing, which would justify the giant Nvidia boards and the Nvidia flags. Of course though, as many of you know who have visited Scotland, I myself have been to Edinburgh and other parts, Glasgow, quite a few times. Scotland is actually full of Nvidia branding. You might not realise this, but how else do you think Scotland would manage to have all those beautiful rain, smoke and particle snow effects day upon day all through winter? As you can see in the video, we rather skillfully there managed to drive ourselves into a hay bale covered in tarpaulin because Kunos have got some nice cobbles that are accompanied by an inability to hold a tyre to the surface, requiring a little bit of delicate steering whilst going through that section of the track. It's rather like the Tour de France when the cyclists have just been doing a large stage and they come into the town for the final sprint only to find out that the floor is cobbles and it's somewhat damp and everyone ends up on the floor, which to be honest is the only reason anyone watches the Tour de France. So it's nice, I think, that Kunos took that and incorporated it into their driving simulator. It could only appeal more to a wider market and only reinforce the fact that Kunos are clearly going for a SimCade approach with Assetto Corsa as each patch rolls out. Now, in terms of the additional features and changes, I've only really had a chance to drive the Porsche 911 car. We were driving it on a sim racing system on the Virginia International Raceway circuit. And I'm familiar with that car, so I thought it'd be interesting to do a race on that and we'll be able to see how it might have changed from this patch. Now, it seems to me, and I guarantee they probably haven't changed this and it's complete placebo and I'm going to make an idiot of myself. This always happens, but it seems to me that the big changes, or the most notable changes in the handling and the tyres and what have you with these updates, is that the tyres seem a little bit less forgiving over the limit in that they take even longer to regain grip, and they seem to have an even smaller margin between having grip and then getting into a more drawn out slide. Nicely, the cars, while sliding, is still, you know, they're still very handleable, controllable, and it's not a death sentence like it might be in some other simulators. But it's definitely, I think, a little bit more tricky. The suspension seems a little bit more calm and collected, especially this seems to be the case on the Porsche 911 Cup cars, I say. Seems that the car's a little bit flatter in its handling, a little bit less lurchy, some ways a little bit more precise, but yeah, a little bit tighter, and I think that might have carried across some of the other cars. Looking back at the history of Kunos's updates, it seems that they always have been working on tightening out the suspension, getting the suspension to be responsive, getting the cars to be tight and responsive without losing that ply on the limit. So you've got that balance between something that's tight and responsive but also has a bit of ply and movement, controllable movement to it. Getting that spot on definitely seems to be the Kunos physics battle that they rage on, they fight on like the 200-year war, chipping away at making the simulator more and more realistic. The tyres have also seen some updates in that the way they wear has changed, with them being a little bit more sensitive to wear. So hopefully in longer races, what should happen is drivers that are more careful and sort of ballet dance around a circuit should be able to get a bit more out of their tyres than drivers that approach driving like a firework factory fire. The other nice little tweaks and changes that are most noticeable is they've just smoothed out some of the aspects of the presentation of the game, in that when the session goes from a practice session to qualifying, it fades out nicely, you still have control of the vehicle, and then when it goes from the end of qualifying to the race session, it fades out from the qualifying, puts you in the pits, gives you a bit of chance to tinker with your settings and get your fuel levels and everything right, and then it puts you onto the circuit. Also, when it comes to finishing the race, it tells you at the top of the screen when the driver, the first place guy, has begun their final lap, and says I think it's the first place driver has begun the final lap, but then also tells you when you yourself are on the final lap. Previously, it could be somewhat confusing at times. You'd be driving and you'd be like, oh, is it final lap or not? I don't know, because you wouldn't know if it was your final lap or the first place driver's final lap. So it's just like little tweaks and just the constant polishing. Kunos are there with they're like a little homeless boy on the street, rubbing away at those shoes, getting them nice and shiny. And I think they've done a really fantastic job. I think this is one of those. It's another one of those kind of stealth updates. I don't think there wasn't that much of a drum roll for this update. I mean, I know they'd hyped the Highlands track a bit, but the stuff that's come into this update does improve the simulator quite drastically on a sort of day-to-day level, even though it's not a giant conflagration update with fancy DLC cars and what have you. So it's a really nice update. I'm really happy with it. I mean, we didn't pay anything for this. This just comes in the core game. You get a fantastic car, you get a nice track, and you get to continue to wonder why you're a grown man still playing computer games. All in all, a fantastic job by Kunos. I would say, if you want to know all the changes, you can go through the bullet points. If that's what you enjoy in life, you can go through all the bullet points. In fairness, it's what I did, and it's the kind of thing that sim racers do. I will be driving more Assetto Corsa as always. I love playing AC in virtual reality. We'll be doing more sim racing system races. Don't forget to click the subscribe button that's on the screen. Like the video, ask any questions. There goes 2 cars off-road. Bonanza, where's he going? In fairness, there are a lot of kebab shops in Scotland, although they do tend to do things like batter Mars bars. Scottish people, I never understand it. I've got Iron Brew next to me. Full authentic Scottish experience with this update. Yes, apologies for the terrible driving in this video. It's my first time on the circuit, literally the 4th lap or so that's my excuse. I'll have to think of another one for the next video. Until the next one, everybody, take care, don't die in your sleep, goodbye.